Good evening. Welcome in daily UPSC editorial audio program. The I in India, the Times of India, the new star cast for politics, invidious divide. Now the full editorial. The I in India, the Times of India. Why individual rights get trumped by communities so often. Times of India editorial. An individual's right to exercise freedom of choice is at the heart of the Constitution. This aim has not always been achieved because communities continue to exercise vice-like grips, especially on women. Consider two recent incidents in Parliament. BJP MP uh, Dharamveer Singh termed live-in relationship as dangerous and wanted a law to prohibit them. BJP MP Dharamveer Singh te- termed live-in relationships as dangerous and wanted a law to prohibit them. Separately, an Islamic scholars in Kerala accused left parties for persuading Muslim women to marry outside their religion. Bleak history of marriage. Exercising choice in marriage is globally a recent phenomena. It came about because of social changes catalyzed by successive industrial revolutions. However, in many societies, like in India, communities and families are reluctant to give precedence to what two individuals may really want. Let's not forget a dowry-related tragedy usually involves families and is rarely limited to an individual. Ambivalent courts, the deep-rooted conservative streak in our society has been evident in some crucial judgments. Majority opinion often tilts towards traditions. This overturned some early attempts by the legislature to protect individuals from the wrath of community leaders. For example, in 1949 legislation to protect individuals from the adverse effect of excommunication of religious authorities did not find favor with the constitution bench of the Supreme Court. Freedom from community. Constitutional rights related to freedom don't limit themselves to protection against an overbearing states. Minority opinions in some landmark judicial cases have argued these also represent a shield against social tyranny. For instance, freedom of conscience has been interpreted by the judiciary as the right to profess atheism. Effectively, it means an individual's choice must be safeguarded against being bulldozed by community norms. Neither the state nor the judiciary has been able to consistently protect individual rights. It is a sign of a wide gap between the Constitution's fundamental principles and India's social reality. New star casts for politics. Modi spoke of women, youth, farmer, and poor as castes that matter. Before caste politics became all pervasive, a variation of that was the mainstream view. It's worth going back for it. Uh, Dipankar Gupta, the writer, is a sociologist. Modi, in his December 3 victory speech, suggested a new fourfold order. Instead of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, which are separate and hostile entities, he posed a fourfold uh, schema of the underprivileged, namely women, farmer, youth, and poor. Uh, Unlike the old Varna, these categories are and easily merge and party together. Problem of plenty. Congress depended far too much on past prejudices and hoped the Bihar caste census would act like a vote magnet to draw in the poor. What they overlooked was that caste in really jatis numbering between 3,000 to 25,000. Maddeningly, these units are also mutually hostile given Varna's separatist ideology. If jatis find it difficult to form a stable coalition, it is because they drew symbolic energy from Varna's notion of superiority and hierarchy that magnify internal class differences. No wonder Mayawati's celebrated alliance with both BJP and Congress were short-lived, as was the Kham faction, which had Kshatriya, Harijans, Adivasis, and Muslims in its rank, mutually implosive. This explains why Jatis can never unite with others over a long term, as there is no neutral caste of adhesive that binds them. True, at one time the Yadavs represented other backward classes and Jatavs the Dalit, but this was because most peasants and members of the scheduled caste respectively lacked literacy and people with connections. This that is all in the past, and today with advancing literacy and urbanizations, almost every caste has its virtues, and they do not have to depend on their earlier patterns. They have also created their own histories, which invariably lead up to an exalted and exclusive Varna past. This has exacerbated distinctions between jatis that no combine can paper over. Mind the gap. Caste consensus enthusiasts should realize that there are wide variations within caste. No such thing called Brahman or Kshatriya, but different Brahman and Kshatriya jatis, and they don't always recognize the others who claim to be one of them as genuine or the real article. Even Baniyas across the country believe they have kingly past. The Agarwal, Khandelwal, and Mahesh Maheshwari claim warrior status but they say they were put off by animal sacrifice and therefore choose to break away. The origin tales of the merchant Kai, Kaikodar of Tamil Nadu relate instances of their legendary martial prowess. That their main deity was a fabled hunt, hunter is a feature that Khandelwals, for example, may find disagreeable. It's complicated. Most of those who believe they are Kshatriya have fought each other bitterly in the past as well. Witness, for example, the many clashes in Bihar between Rajputs and Yadavs, or the grim encounters in Rajasthan where Rajputs took on the Jats in West UP agricultural heartland. Jats and Gurjars have not been best friends either. The list goes on. To understand contemporary caste politics, one must begin by separating Varna from Jati, an act that is intellectually difficult, if not contradictory. Thus, even while some agitate to be included as backward, they will still hold on to their Varna position as a Kshatriya or even a Brahman. When it comes unstuck, Jati is pragmatic positioning on the ground, while Varna is status looked in the heart. This is primarily why any Jati con- consolidation that doesn't undermine the traditional Varna hierarchy will always be hobbled. It is not as if the poor are now fighting the rich. What in reality they are fighting one another. They consider as competitors those others deemed as backward or extremely backward, made worse by their contested Varna status. It is a pity that in the 1980s the political uh, far, uh, firmament was swept by the rise of caste one upmanship. When the Mandal recommendations were accepted, it shook the ideological certitude of parties like Congress and even the communists. They now begin to wonder if they had been too un- uncharitable to caste issues all along. In in this, they ended up overcompensating. What happened to anti-caste? Rajiv Gandhi, to be fair, did make a spirited defense of the old Congress ideology against caste politics, but very soon that was over and done with. With time pending, with time pandering to caste only grew, and a dissenting note on this was like scream away the crows. The limits of forming Jati units when the Varna logic of separation was hovering overhead was set aside as elitist. Hindu activists from Dayanand Saraswati to Mohan Bhagwat condemned caste as much as the old Congress did. In fact, Ambedkar found reason to Loud, the founder of the Arya Samaj, tough. He disagreed with his strident views against Buddhism. It is the same Ambedkar who often found Gandhi warning in his fight against untouchability. Mess and match. How will this new four-fold cluster of women, youth, farmer, and the poor affected poverty in eradication policies? These are clearly not exclusivist and hierarchical strata as in the old Varna scheme, but fold into one another. They deserve society level interventions and not targeted delivery. The Bihar census proponents might advocate the latter. Herein lies the challenge. Yet so far, election manifesto of all major parties are geared to outweigh each other with freebies. This is why they finally end up like coffee table books, too heavy to carry but very light to read. Invidious divide the Hindu. India can do without politicians exagger- exagger- exacerbating the north-south polarization. The remark on North Indian states made by Dravid Kankam, member of parliament as in Lok Sabha since expounds from the records was unworthy of a lawmaker to speak disparagingly of fellow beings of their beliefs, food habits, or cultural practices is nothing short of bigotry. Political preferences vary from region to region. In the vast countries such as India, there are various imbalances in this vast landscape. For instance, in terms of literacy and education, natural resources, access to trade routes, and demographic compositions. These imbalances also reflect in the country's political and economic structures. Some regions are more advanced economically, while some others have a higher capacity to influence the political course of the country. Imbalances apart, there is a vast diversity in India in terms of religion, language, culture, and ordinary habits. Nation makers grappled with these challenges of imbalances and diversity to set in motion the consolidation of the most diverse and the most populated democratic country on the planet. While India has made significant progress in addressing these imbalances and managing the diversity, any honest appraisal would have to account for the unfinished task at hand. Regional identities and imbalances are not to be brushed under the carpet or forced into silence unless the attempt is to create an authoritarian country. The MP apologized for his unwarranted comments on so did his party. That episode so now be laid to rest. His comments were in the context of the Bharatiya Janata Party's victory in the three Hindi-speaking states of Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh, while Telangana voted for the Congress, suggesting a divergence between the northern and southern states in political preference. India has had ruling parties and coalitions of different regional compositions, but the north, by virtue of having a larger share of populations, has had bigger say in the country's mm, governance. The suggestion of an invidious north-south divide is baseless and dangerous, while the issue of multiple imbalances is legitimate and real. The states in the south and west are growing faster economically, while those in the north and east are growing faster in populations. These trends need to be reconciled in a manner that helps the progress of the country rather than becoming a source of acrimony. Development outcomes are also vary across religious and caste communities in particular regions. There is also a danger that these challenges can accelerate with the impending nationwide delimitation in Lok Sabha constituencies and the growing gaps in development between regions and communities. These questions of imbalances cannot be left unaddressed. It is essential that these discussions are informed and respectful, are devoid of any prejudice and hostility. Thank you.